So welcome to the launch event of this joint initiative between the European Union, the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States and UNCDF. We'll be starting in a couple of seconds once all participants have been able to join the session. We had over 200 registrations, so it might take a few seconds for people to be able to join in, jump into the session. Okay, so with that, I will start sharing my screen as we let colleagues and participants join into the session, and we will soon be launching this event. So as is mentioned in the title of this event, we are launching a new joint initiative between the European Union, the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States and UNCDF, that with the aim to unlock the potential of digital finance for the resilience of the economies in ACP countries. Okay. I'm Karima Wardak and I'm your host today. I'm a knowledge manager at UNCDF for the Inclusive Digital Economies team. So I'm giving you a few more minutes to allow all participants to be able to join in, because we've received quite a lot of registrations, but we will start right now. So welcome to you all, because from the registration, we could see that we're getting participants coming in from all sides of the world, from the Caribbean, from Malawi, from Ethiopia, from Gabon and Niger, to just name a few of the countries that I could see in the registration list. So in today's webinar, you will hear about the new joint initiative and the experiences of partners of UNCDF in digital finance from Malawi, Sierra Leone and Uganda. So the agenda is composed of three main sections: opening remarks, a fireside chat on digital finance for resilience, and an introduction to the program that will be followed with some time for question and answers about what will have been shared during the fireside chat and about the program. So for the question and answer session, I would like to direct you to the Q&A module of this Zoom webinar to ask your questions. My colleagues Mali and Lysandra are in standby and will be collating your questions for the panel and about the program. So also note that the session is recorded, so in case you have to drop out, or if you want to share this session and this presentation of the program with colleagues or with connections in your network, you will be able to do so as we share the recording after this event. We will share it with all people who have registered, but we will also share it through our social media channels. But without further ado, let's start with the opening remarks from Ms. Preeti Singha, Executive Secretary of UNCDF, and His Excellency Mr. George Rebelo Pinto Chikoti, Secretary General of the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States. So first, Ms. Preeti Singha, UNCDF focuses on unlocking public and private finance for the poor in least developed countries. Can you give us some insights on UNCDF's work and digital financial inclusion and how digital finance can contribute to the resilience of economies hit by the pandemic?
Thank you, Karima, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. Let me first start by thanking the EU and the OACPs for this wonderful partnership together with UNCDF on building digital finance for resilience. A particular thanks to Ambassador to His Excellency, the Secretary General of the OACPs, Mr. George Rebelo Pinto Chikoti. It's a real pleasure to be here with you in these opening remarks. So it's an honor to serve with the EU and the OACPs in our joint initiatives in Africa and the Pacific, and this new initiative in the Caribbean states. This is joint initiative. It's the first of its kind in digital finance with such a regional outreach and ambition. And I'd like to reflect on the work that we've been doing in the past and lay a path for the way forward. In the past, we've engaged with multiple partnerships along with the EU in Africa, in countries such as Guinea, Ghana, Gambia, Niger, Senegal, to name just a few countries. This new initiative will leverage on those learnings of those programs that focus on financial inclusion and job creation. And this is designed in alignment with the Digital for Development strategy and the joint ACP-EU cooperation framework for private sector development in the ACP countries. I have to add a note here that I myself have spent about 6 years on the African continent, worked with ACP facilities in the past. So it's a real pleasure to be back here and discussing this important regional dimension. As the UN's flagship agency for LDC finance, UNCDF takes a market systems development approach to grow digital financial inclusion in the LDCs and contribute to SDGs, particularly SDG 1. What do we mean by that? In considering how digital finance and financial services can expand, we have come to realize that all countries are not the same. Kenya is not Uganda, Malawi is not Fiji. Each market is different and each institution possesses different resources and their culture have unique characteristics. And so we tried to design our digital finance interventions and ecosystems around these distinct paths for each of our partner countries. The path is also different and distinct for customers. The digital finance inclusion for a young entrepreneur in Senegal is different than the path followed by a woman leading a small business in Benin. So by taking a market systems development approach in Benin, say to stay on that country, for example, UNCDF's contributions have helped grow the mobile money users in Benin from 2% to 40% in just the last 5 years. We're very grateful for the privilege of partnering with Benin, and we hope our contributions add value there. So overall, deploying an effective market system development approach calls for us to address both the supply and demand side drivers. Let me offer an example from Uganda. So in Uganda, UNCDF partnered with the largest coffee exporter to digitize the payments to its 6,000 plus farmers in the eastern region. We partnered with MTN, the local network, to provide that connectivity so that mobile money providers could join in. However, MTN didn't see at first the business opportunity in this case. They had to set up and invest in a mobile tower. So UNCDF proposed to MTN's infrastructure investment team an opportunity to take a guarantee from us for $100,000 for any losses that might occur in the tower, in setting up this tower. This investment, to the surprise of MTN, broke even in just less than 6 months, and the adoption of mobile money surpassed the national average by 25%. Then we partnered with a company called Uganda that helped distribute the SIM cards and the mobile phones to the farmers. And soon we saw in about 6 months that we had most of the farmers using the mobile payment systems, therefore getting regular payments, and therefore having a sustainable livelihood. So this, we believe, is an inclusive innovation that contributes to better economics by providing connectivity infrastructure. In another kind of progress in our market systems development approach, we have worked in Zambia, Sierra Leone, and the Pacific. So in engaging the entire ecosystem from the public to the private sector, we are able to address different constraints in different parts of the chain. These engagements from our side range from a series of instruments, particularly 4, in terms of the grants and TAs that are very valuable, helping seeding and helping develop the initial business, to loans and guarantees that can then help scale up those business opportunities, and the very valuable knowledge sharing that some of our colleagues work on in particular. So what works in one country, we try to replicate in another. Let me elaborate a little bit on the unique mandate that UNCDF has as its capital mandate. So the part that I mentioned, grants and TAs, but that loans and guarantees, where we are unique in the UN system to have this financial capacity. So with working closely with the government partners and with private sector on market constraints, we also try to identify investment opportunities that can contribute to the development of the digital financial inclusion, and more broadly in our practice, which is called inclusive digital economies. So over the past 3 years, we have learned that to expand the capacity, loans and guarantees is a strategic way to unlock additional commercial capital. And through the establishment of our platform, which is called the LDC Investment Platform, we house our own on-balance sheet loans and guarantees. Our portfolio consists of clean energy, financial inclusion, agribusiness, women's economic empowerment. And the portfolio grows year on year, and the last one being 45%. So the unique capacity of the United Nations system will be expanded in the coming years, and therefore we feel we are on the forefront of targeting catalytic investments in early stage digital economic businesses to demonstrate investment readiness and enable the private sector to access large-scale blended or commercial capital. Coming back to the digital finance and perspective it offers in the ACP countries, digitization of finance has revolutionized the access to capital across MSMEs, not to mention young entrepreneurs and women-led businesses. So we're very proud of this work, and I'm delighted to be here today to take this agenda forward with you. The digital solutions enable aggregation of demand in ways that were not previously available to the MSMEs. So we do work such as risk assessment through alternative credit scoring, leveraging digital data, digital verification of collateral, structuring of investment offerings, and access to capital in a variety of new ways. And all of this is made possible because of the data that is collected when companies and individuals use mobile money. So these innovations then facilitate the structuring of blended finance transaction because there's more data on which credit decisions could be taken. And therefore access to capital is enabled. And this is the way of the financial market. So we are very glad that other players are coming into this financial dimension. Digitalization of finance has also opened up new approaches to scale domestic resource mobilization. We've got great examples of how we've enabled savings that then can be reinvested for long-term investment in socioeconomic infrastructure. So it's money by the country for its own development and in priority sectors in those countries. So access to capital and domestic resource mobilization are all key to the resilience of economies. In conclusion, let me add that this partnership represents what should be the highest aspiration of the development finance community: to make finance work for humanity and not the other way around. We are all aware that what has been lacking in development finance space are the innovative capital markets that can finance human development projects. So we want to tap into that vast arena of capital, that is there, but not yet connected directly to development. So our collaboration will take us one step closer to this aspiration. In the future, you can always count on UNCDF to be your partner in terms of both our finance expertise, our innovation ethos, and as your resource. So with those comments, I thank you very much for your attention and look forward to this partnership. Over to you, Karima.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your remarks, Ms. Bidisingha. And without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Ambassador Shikoli for his remarks about and also his expectations for this new joint initiative that will focus on developing digital financial services for the resilience of the economies in the member states of the OACPs.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, the representatives of the European Commission, the representatives of the United Nations Capital Development Fund, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for me to officially launch today, jointly with the European Commission and the implementing partner, the United Nations Capital Development Fund, the innovative initiative, leveraging digital finance to increase the resilience of the OACPs countries, leaving no one behind in the digital era. Through this 14.5 million euro program, we aim to contribute to the deployment of digital finance solutions at the scale and speed necessary to deepen financial inclusion, provide more financial resources, and accelerate economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. To this end, the ultimate objective is to make economies and societies more resilient to external shocks. This initiative is in line with the third pillar of the joint ACP-EU private sector development strategy adopted in 2014, which seeks to foster financial inclusion in members of the OACPs. To achieve this holistic approach, a holistic approach is being pursued with a view to improving the livelihoods of OACPS citizens and support the competitiveness of our micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Digital finance allows for payments, deposits, and credit by making use of mobile or digital applications. Digital finance also creates new opportunities for businesses and individuals in all regions of the world, both in urban and rural communities. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 global pandemic has severely harmed the livelihoods and increased poverty. In our member states, whose economies are not diversified and often tourism-driven, the COVID-19 impact has been more economic than human. In many cases, national lockdowns, while necessary, have left their marks on all regions of the OACPs. The pandemic is being especially harmful to those who generally earn less, serve less, hold more insecure jobs, and therefore have less capacity to absorb economic shocks. These are the most vulnerable people, mostly women and youth. Among several challenges that this program is going to address, it is worth mentioning the following. One, the lack of appropriate data, information systems, and digital infrastructures for public and private stakeholders. Number two, the policies and the regulations to enable the most vulnerable to access appropriate and affordable digital financial solutions. Three, the low incentives for the providers to develop products and services that fully respond to the needs of fragile and vulnerable people. And number four, the weak digital financial skills to access and take full advantage of digital financial services. Ladies and gentlemen, through the implementation of this initiative and by adopting a macro, meso, micro approach, accessible, affordable, responsible, reliable, and appropriate digital financial services and digital solutions will be developed and deployed. To achieve this objective, while working with OACPS partners in each region, the program will enhance capacities of policymakers and regulators and provide support for key policy reforms in digital transformation and digital finance regulations. In addition, the program will improve the early response to emergencies, ensure improved decision-making and market oversight to accelerate economic recovery and promote long-term resilience. Furthermore, it will create and strengthen digital finance ecosystems, including innovative financial services, building the rails for digital payments, credits, insurance, and supporting the design, the test and scale up innovations to support low-income individuals such as women and youth. It will also assist micro, small, and medium enterprises in mitigating immediate external shocks or emergencies and seizing economic opportunities linked to crowdfunding and digital microfinance. Last but not least, in our joint effort to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, digital solutions are key to create more jobs and improve basic services such as health and education. Ladies and gentlemen, time is of essence. I am therefore looking forward to the OACP's cooperation with the European Union and the United Nations Capital Development Fund to operationalize the program and achieve the results very much needed by the members and the regions of the OACPs. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Chikoti. Thank you very much for your time and for giving us this first view into the expectations around the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we dive into the program presentation itself, we wanted to offer participants to this webinar and this launch event some insights into and learnings from other markets, as knowledge sharing is an important component of this program. And we felt it was important that we give you a first taste of some of the activities that we will be running throughout the program. So for this fireside chat, we have invited partners from the private and the public sector from Malawi, Sierra Leone, and Uganda, because there are important stakeholders of the digital finance ecosystem, the famous ecosystem that Ambassador Chikoti was referring to a few minutes ago. And at the center of this ecosystem, obviously, we have the clients, the users of the service. And working to service these clients, we have the stakeholders that range from political leaders to banks, service providers, fintech, central banks, as well as ministries and donors or NGOs and technical assistance providers. They all have different incentives and they all operate in markets that might be at different stages of readiness and development. And so in this fireside chat, we felt that it was important in this first activity for the program in sharing some insights and lessons learned from other markets that we have in this talk a representative of the public sector and a representative from the private sector. And for that, we invited today three speakers. So Jen Mugenyi from MTN Uganda, who heads the partnerships, the strategic partnerships unit there. So Jane has over 10 years of experience in B2B enterprise connectivity and mobile financial services. Her role is to look out for unique innovations that utilize the mobile money platform to serve the last mile. And this is achieved through partnerships with financial institutions, fintech developers, SMEs, FMCG government and development partners, all geared towards ecosystem development, infrastructure, and efficient distribution, and specifically in Uganda. And we also have, from the public sector, we have Philippe Bengura. Philippe Bengura is the Assistant Director for the Market Discipline Division at the Central Bank of Sierra Leone. He supervises the Credit Reference Bureau, the Collateral Registry and Consumer Protection Section. And he has worked for the Bank of Sierra Leone for over 19 years now. He has promoted access to finance and digital finance, but he considers his current responsibility of protecting customers as the most important assignment of them all, because it is the foundation for financial inclusion in a country where people don't have confidence in financial institutions. And last but not least, we have Victoria Tinambwe. She's the group head in digital financial services at FDH Bank Limited in Malawi. She joined the FDH group in May 2014. So as the digital financial service group head, she is responsible for all aspects of digital strategy at the bank. She has over 11 years of experience in the banking sector, and prior to joining FDH Group, Mrs. Bengura was heading the marketing department at Opportunity International Bank Limited. She was also a key in the implementation of the digital social and humanitarian payments in Malawi in conjunction with various donor organizations and MNOs. So you see, we have quite a rich panel here to start discussing the evolution of mobile money and digital financial services in general in the different markets that we will be going through. And so in this fireside chat, we'll look at how services have evolved and how the shift from cash to digital payment happened. And more importantly, we'll try and analyze whether this is a blip on the radar of these markets, or if this evolution and behavior is a stepping stone for a more sustainable change in the future. And we'll also explore with our speaker how the emergence of these services, digital financial services, is contributing to the resilience of the economies and businesses in these countries. So these are a few questions that we'll be exploring. So let me start first with Philippe Bengura, that I will ask to join me on camera, as well as Jane and Victoria, so that we can now all be on live with you. So Philippe Bengura,
yes,
leading the consumer protection in Sierra Leone at the Central Bank of Sierra Leone. So that's so like the rest of the world, Sierra Leone was hit by the COVID, obviously. And you in Sierra Leone, you have, I cannot see your camera, Philippe.
Yeah, the host will have to, the host of my video, so the host will have to, because I tried connecting it, but I said I need the host to.
That's it, that's me, my fault. Here you are, back online with us, thank you. So Sierra Leone, like the rest of the world, had to put measures in place to stop the spread of the virus. And so COVID is one of the crises, unfortunately, your country had to go through, and it was not the only one. We can all still remember the Ebola crisis that took place between 2014 and 2016. And during that recent crisis, digital payment already proved to be a great mean in the management of the crisis. By facilitating the payments of digital health workers. So your country has gained some kind of, quickly learnings in digital financial services. And so maybe to start, can you give us also some insights on how mobile money evolved in your country in the last 18 months in the light of the first experience you had with the Ebola crisis, and how much of that evolution was due to the fact that you had learned of what you had learned during the Ebola crisis?
Okay, thank you, Karima. With the Ebola actually helped to the spread of digital finance. Prior to the Ebola, the uptake was very slow. But the government used that to pay health workers. So we saw an increase in the use of digital finance. But unfortunately, after the Ebola, we saw a huge drop because most of those were temporary workers who were laid off by government. So they were no longer using their wallet. But what we've noticed with the data that we've received, we noticed that around December 2019, we had about 2.7 million registered people using the wallet. And then by March, when the COVID started, we have just about 6% increase, about 2.8 million. But as of now, we have about 53% increase in the usage and registration of mobile money. And also with regards to the volume, the amount that is being transacted, we saw an increase. There was a drop, in fact, from December 2019 to March 2020, we saw a drop of about -3%. And then we saw a huge increase of over 155% in terms of the volume. So up to about trillion loans being transacted. So it's now huge. And the difference between the Ebola and the COVID, the Ebola, it was used as a temporary solution for government to pay health workers all over the country. But with this, people actually enrolled because of need. They saw the challenge going to the bank, queuing, and the difficulty in getting access to their money. And we saw a lot of the banks now cooperating with mobile phone companies. So they have this collaboration where they can now push and pull money from your wallet to your account, from your account to your wallet. So we've seen all of this, and we saw also there was a 3-month, they removed interest for local transaction, P2P, for 3 months. That charges was removed. We saw also an uptick because of that. That was done by the mobile phone company. So we saw a lot of push with regards to this. And also for the BSL point of view, we are also interested in digital finance because it costs us millions of pounds to print currency, and they last for just over 2 years. So basically, we just keep printing every now and then. And we had a challenge during December. There was a big problem with cash because the guys who were printing for us were not able to meet demand because of the COVID. And that created a whole problem where people go to the bank, they want, let's say $500 and they get $200 because there was not enough processed cash for them to use. So with all of that learned, we've seen movement. But now what we've seen is this increase of 155% will be more sustainable than the one we had with the Ebola because people are going out of need and not out of necessity.
Okay, that's really telling. Thank you so much for that. So clearly there's a shift and a huge increase in use of mobile money, and it's motivated both by the crisis, but also on your side, it's really important that you're able to shift, you know, from cash to digital because of all the other structural problems that you might face. So moving to maybe Uganda, I think it would be interesting to hear also some insights on some key data about how mobile money, you know, quickly moved up in terms of usage in Uganda. So Jane, over to you with the perspective from MTN, but also the overall market in Uganda. So can you give us a few figures that show how the volume of transactions changed in your country, and maybe if you can also highlight some of the measures that you think have triggered that huge increase in transactions.
Thank you, Karima. It's always a pleasure to be here. So I'll speak about on 3 fronts about how mobile money has grown, especially in the wake of COVID. And I'll speak about the agent, I'll speak about the subscriber, and then I'll speak about the partnerships that has built the transactions to grow. First, the wallets, the use of wallets, because we know there's a GSM, which is a SIM card, and then the mobile wallet. So in the beginning, that would be activated after the GSM has been activated. So someone acquires a SIM card, which is predominantly for making calls, and then they have the wallet, which is for mobile money. So during the COVID pandemic, we realized that we have a disparity between the people that had the SIM cards and those that had the mobile money wallets on those SIM cards. So then, because these customers were all KYC compliant, we thought about seeking approval to perform a bulk activation, which means that each person will have their wallet set up automatically, and then they just have to enter a PIN, which is a secret PIN, as a security for the wallet. So we partnered with the Ministry of Health, of course, such that during the campaigns around COVID, would then encourage people who have received this push SMS, encouraging them to set up the PIN so that they can activate their PIN immediately. And what we did with that is build a stimulus behind the SMS so that when subscribers receive that SMS, they will then use the money that they've received as a stimulus to do a basic transaction, which is buying airtime, because that is the primary use of a SIM card. So after they buy airtime, then they become active as mobile money subscribers. But in the back end, would then, every time they buy airtime, we send messages to them, encouraging them what else they can do if they had mobile money on the phone. And that caused a growth of 17% from the previous base that had already been activated. So these were new subscribers coming on board. Then when I speak about agents, we developed something during that time, which is an emergency float. So because the country was under lockdown, agents would not move to the bank very freely to get rebalance in terms of float and cash. However, if they had subscribers coming to get service from them, they would then request for an emergency float, which would suffice them to run their business in real time at that moment, instead of sending the subscribers away. Then also during that time, we zero rated the person-to-person transactions for about 3 months during lockdown to see if there was elasticity in sending money. Of course, people did not have such disposable income at that moment, but the transactions grew and increased by 21%, meaning that people were now starting to see the use cases around using mobile money, but also we encouraged by communicating to them after they transact, what else can they use the mobile money for? And that included other payments or utility bills, which would then cause stickiness, so that it's not a blip at the end of the day, which causes a spike, but they continue using the services because now they see the need. Then the same customers, because we had now started onboarding MomoPay. MomoPay is a merchant, which is a face-to-face payment for transaction, which is actually free of charge, because the proposition is you have already moved to the shop. So you've incurred either transportation or something, but we're encouraging you to use the money that is on your wallet to make a payment to the shop attendant. So that transaction was free. Before COVID, we used to see that transaction, at least unique pairs, were about 1 transaction in a month. During COVID, because of the sensitization and the initiatives around mopping cash out of the ecosystem, we saw those transactions grow from 1 to 5 for unique users within a month. And that was a great increase. And then on the e-commerce platforms, we saw an increase of about 35% in volume, because people now were ordering things online and items online while paying using mobile money, but also because the e-commerce platform owners had partnered with delivery partners that were also accepting digital payments. That is how we achieved the 85% growth. Then on another front was interoperability. So interoperability means that the systems are talking to each other from MNO to MNO, but also bank to MNO. So we enabled cross MNO transactions, and that increased by 2.5%. So then someone did not have to say, I can't send money because this person is using another network. That barrier had been removed. So it was allowing people to move money freely through the ecosystem, and at a cost, of course, but it was freely moving without that barrier of interoperability. Then last but not least, when we speak about the SMEs, so the onboarding platform during COVID-19, customers used to onboard by walking into the shop, walking into the MTN premises with their documents, and then get online integrations. So in this case, because we had already planned as MTN to make the onboarding simpler, we had an open API platform, which just allows the systems to talk to each other easily. So you are an innovator, and this is a mobile money platform. The API just sits in the middle to allow these two systems to talk to each other. So at that time on that platform, before COVID, we only had 50 businesses, SMEs, connected on the platform. During COVID, because a lot of people were innovating towards payment around that time, this increased to 200,000 businesses connected to do payments and having unique propositions that were obviously serving the last mile.
That's incredible. I mean, that increase is quite telling. From 50 to 200,000, that's quite huge. SMEs wanting to, you know, become digital. That's really interesting. And also the figure of moving from one transaction to five transactions for unique users. That's also very impressive. So and also I like the what you told us, the first example around dormancy and how, you know, the COVID really changed the habit. Like, people had the capacity to use their wallets, but they simply didn't do it because there were no proper incentives. And unfortunately, the COVID measures created the right incentives for one thing, but also you mentioned the fact that these transactions could be done for free for a couple of months, actually 3 months. That's what you were saying. So 3 months is quite a long period. It's quite enough to actually, you know, really, you know, get people into a service and want to continue using it. And that's what you're also saying. What's interesting is that these users who started using it for free are still using the services. So that's really interesting. So it does show that there's a lot of kind of trust already in your market. But maybe going back to Sierra Leone and to you, Philippe Bengura, and talking about trust, because that's a really, really essential component of, you know, of the ecosystem, the trust customers have in the system. If there is not such a trust, then you know, people might try it for once, but might not want to go back to the service, because if the trust is broken, then it's really, really hard to get them back online. And I want to come back to you, Philippe, because I know you have, because colleagues at UNCDF have worked with you on that. You've been working on new techniques and methodologies at the central bank to relook at your policies and change your policies. And I think it would really be interesting for our audience to hear from that experience. So what were the type of methodologies that you use to redefine your policies? What were the cases that you were confronted with, and how did that lead you to change policies for Sierra Leone? And how do you see that this will help, you know, improve the trust in the services in your market?
Thank you again. With regards to the methodology, UNCDF did a supply side study, tried to look at all of the providers of such services to see how they deal with customers, because, as I said, customer confidence is very important, especially in a nation like Sierra Leone, where people don't have confidence with dealing with a financial institution, let alone a mobile phone company. So they find it difficult to actually use some of those tools. So the supply side study was able to bring out some of the issues, and the IPA did a demand side study that was also able to look at key issues that consumers, so they focus on consumer groups, and we're able to come up with a lot of issues. We at the central bank also did some mystery shopping just to confirm the report. So we went around just acting like customers, call to complain, go to some other banks, non-banks, just to be able to understand. And we were able to confirm some of the issues that were raised in the both supply and demand side study, that indeed there's a problem with the way some of these service providers deal with customers. And we believe if that is not addressed, then financial inclusion will be something difficult to achieve. So with that, we were able to work with UNCDF to come up with a draft consumer protection guidelines. And in the interim, the central bank is actually addressing customer complaints. But going forward, it will be left with the service providers to be the first point of contact. And we will only come in if the complainant is not satisfied with the outcome, and then we will come in and try to mediate. So that is what we've been doing with regards to understanding what are some of the problems. But the cases with regards to mobile network has to do with situation where somebody sent money to the wrong number, and they try to get the money back, but by the time they report, the person had already cashed out. And when they talk to the mobile phone company, the person was registered with an ID, but the address system is different from the current address, and they couldn't trace the person. So what we did, presently there's a registration and verification exercise going on for the national identification number. So that will be a unique number that everybody will get, that will never change. So we've sent a letter to the banks and non-banks to tell them that all their customers should ensure they register or verify their NIN number, and those numbers should be taken to the bank. So we're going to tie your bank account with those numbers. And that is your permanent data. It will not change. So even if I mistake and send the money to your mobile phone number, you cash out, we will still be able to trace you, and you will be able to refund that, just like we do with banks. If that's a account that is crediting error, you will reverse that transaction and give the person his money back. But for mobile phone company, it has been difficult to do once the person cash out. So that's just an example from the digital point. I don't want to bore you with the banks as well.
It's not boring. It's actually quite interesting. And it can be, if I'm the customer who did the wrong sending, I would really be happy if there was a solution to help me get my funds back and send to the right person. So I think it's really interesting, and I think for our audience, it's really good to hear concrete examples of things you've witnessed and were able to act upon. And it's not about taking action immediately; it's actually taking a more broader view and looking at the identification system and seeing how to improve it, because then that's your solution to actually solve on the long term those kind of issues. But maybe before I go back to Jane about use cases and thinking about how, in the market, it's not just the increase in volume and that was striking in Uganda. It's also all the different ways people use mobile money for different types of activities. But before we go that, we have also Victoria Mbegwe, and I don't want to forget about her. She's from Malawi, FDH Bank, and I want to give her an opportunity to share with us, reacting to what has been just said from Uganda and Sierra Leone, give her perspective from Malawi. So how did mobile money and digital financial services evolve in Malawi? And how does that compare with what she just heard before? Victoria, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. I should say we share a lot of similarities. Looking at the presentation by Philippe, and can you hear me quite fine?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So you will notice that when you look at the similarities, we are having some increase during the COVID time, where we are having a lot of transactions being pushed by at least the MNOs. So we are having the non-bank mobile money services, which are leading, and they are at least on average processing transactions of over 1.9 trillion per quarter. You see that the increase of the use cases is pretty much the same with Uganda of airtime. And you see that there is a lot of utility payments there. And you see that there's a lot of mobile retail transfers between the same users. I should say our national switch has played a very strategic role by introducing interoperability between the MNOs. So we are having MNOs transferring funds across to each other, and the increase has gone up to at least 75% since they launched. And now we can see that with COVID, the transactions are growing as well. I'll go to the bank-led mobile transactions. They are lagging behind to the MNOs, but the growth has been over 38% since the COVID came through. And you find that the transactions that are happening, especially for mobile loans, as well as for transfers and airtime, are also increasing to over 68%. And you will notice that for women, we are having at least a lower number of women transacting. Of the total of over 8.6 million subscribers that transact on mobile money, we are having at least only 36% that are women. But that has grown because of the extension of COVID reach out. There have been some disbursements that have been done by government. The same thing that Philip was talking about, to say that with the government interventions, you find that there are some wallets that have been used for disbursements to redeem the funds and withdraw so that they can attend to their needs. I am sure, looking at the increase that we have experienced during COVID, we are having a lot of transactions in volume that have gone up by at least 38% on the bank side, and for the mobile money, they have gone up by 67%. So that is the growth that we have experienced. And also, we have seen, I should say, the regulator gave us a directive to say we should cut the charges being done on the platforms by at least 40%. So since that was done, you notice that the transaction really went up, and we have experienced that the users that were onboarded the time that we're having COVID from last year, they have been perpetual in their transactions. So it's really something that is sustainable. So it was used during the COVID time, but we are resilient enough to be engaging with the users ongoing. So we see that these users are still using the very same services on the merchants, utilities, airtime, and there's also been an increase on the request of mobile loans. So on both the mobile money side as well as on the bank side, there have been an introduction of a lot of loan products in conjunction with banks and financial services providers. So we are seeing the adoption going up in the market. So I should say in brief, that is what we have experienced during the COVID time. I've omitted the part where we are having only 493 ATMs, the whole market. So that on its own has propelled a lot of transactions on the mobile money as well as the bank-led mobile banking services. Okay. I should stop there for now.
Yeah, or maybe we'll come back to you after Jane has given us some insight on some of the use cases, because you were mentioning utility payments, and I believe that that's one of the use cases in Uganda that was really interesting to see evolve, in particular for rural areas and people who were not maybe the most intense users of mobile money services. And that's one of the focus of the program, is to go to the last mile, is to go into rural areas where mobile money is not necessarily the day-to-day service that you're using. And so maybe Jane, if you can give us some insights on those specific services that have been more intensely used and were very useful to people living in remote areas where it's not so easy to find a bank at each corner, but it's easier to find probably an agent. And so if you can give us some more insights on those use cases, and we'll come back to you, Victoria, maybe to look at some of the challenges that you see, and that would be interesting to address during the program.
Thank you, Karima. So in our last discussion, I talked about the onboarding of SMEs and innovators and developers. So these innovations that behind the mobile money platform are definitely what sustains the stickiness of the users to stay on mobile money. And some of them are not directly initiated by MTN, but because we are into partnering with other people who do other things very well or who are very agile. So as long as we offer them a platform, they've created some very unique use cases that I'll probably share with you now. And some of them involve SACCOs, a society and cooperative groups, mainly in rural areas for women and men. So they contribute money and then loan each other. Previously, they would put this money in a box, or they meet and just share it and give the chairman, and then they did not have any documentation in place to show who has contributed what, or those documents can actually get lost. So this platform, the mobile money platform, has enabled, through what we call advanced services, to create collections and disbursement enablements which allow people to withdraw and also to save as a SACCO group. So it is quite agile. It is like a mini bank, because someone sits in the comfort of their home and they're able to withdraw from their savings account or to deposit without actually going in there or meeting with the rest of the team. The second one is clean energy. When I speak about clean energy, I'm actually referring to solar, which also offers phone charging facilities. So this was enabled to be paid on a prepaid mode, whereby people can pay very small values on a daily, but they keep their lights on. So you buy a solar unit on hire purchase, but then you have a payment agreement, which is on a daily for a certain period of time, and you use your mobile money platform. And as a good pair, there are incentives behind that payment. So you have obviously your wallet, and you can only obtain the solar panel if you have a mobile money number or a mobile money wallet. And that has created stickiness, because if I'm to keep my lights on every single day and I'm paying every day because my income is very low, then that means at least I have a transaction every day that connects me to a mobile money platform. Then I'll speak about nano loans. So we work with banking partners that offer nano loans through the mobile phones, which are very small, to about a tune of about $300. So these are disbursed through the mobile phone, and we've seen a great uptake of women in that area using this service as a mini loan to set up a business or to save for a certain reason. And they're very good pairs. If you look at the default rate, the women are very few that default in this area. Although we had some big default because of COVID, we are now getting back to that place where people are now able to pay back their loans, is starting to set in back. But this is a very good use case because it has encouraged people to look at mobile money as a different thing, not just a peer-to-peer transactions that you can do with the users. And also it has created an alternative credit scoring thought or model, which looks at everybody being included, but also rewarding people who pay on time so that the next loan is actually on a smaller interest rate. I've also seen an increase in inbound remittances from diaspora. So people sending money straight to mobile, terminating into the mobile. That is a great use case because now, before you had to walk to the bank to pick up funds, and during lockdown of COVID, the movement was really minimized. So the fact that people would receive their funds in the mobile created an ease towards the movement, but also created other use cases that are behind what the money is purposed for at that time when you receive it. Then I've also seen evolvement in the healthcare sector, whereby now we have telehealth, where people can call in and get consultations online from a doctor, but paying for that consultation using mobile money. And the doctor can actually be dispatched if it's a very severe case to visit the patient in their homes, and all this is paid online without necessarily interacting. Then another biggest use case is school fees. So school fees is collections, but we know that education is very key, especially in Africa. So this is another use case that has grown so significantly to a tune of 100,000 transactions a month in payment of school fees. Then another one is cross-border payments. We've also seen an involvement around cross-border payments where people pay for merchants across the border. For example, Uganda and Kenya trade so closely, Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda and Tanzania. So you can actually use mobile money to pay to a merchant or to order for goods from Kenya, and they'll get shipped to Uganda or delivered to Uganda after you have paid for mobile money. Then another rural solution that has been very key is enabling agritechs. So agritechs have a very unique proposition to smallholder farmers, whereby they use the transactions that they perform on the mobile money platform to build a credit scoring model that also links them to other agribusinesses that provide probably inputs into their agricultural farms and maybe fertilizers. So that has grown a lot for rural integration into the mobile money platform.
That's fantastic to hear. So a lot of services that are really helping, people in rural areas, from agriculture to access to energy to also financial services through the model you mentioned for SACCOs at the start. I mean, it's quite impressive, and to health services, it's like a real full package that is really emerging. And so both the demand side has kind of really evolved fast, but also the supply side. So the offer of services has really diversified greatly, which has helped probably for customers make it really worthwhile to have a mobile money wallet, because with all these services at the tip of your phone ready to be paid, there's a real purpose for having such a mobile money wallet. So it's really impressive. It's like a virtuous cycle that comes together, and the ecosystem is really working well with the clients and the stakeholders really working together to get the services online and available. So Victoria, just to close with you, maybe on this fireside chat, as I see the time is running, and because Malawi is one of the countries, as we will hear from the program presentation, I wanted to give you also an opportunity to share some of the challenges you see. So we've seen a big growth in services, but I'm sure, and we didn't get to talk about that with Jane and Philip for Sierra Leone and Uganda, but we've talked about the positive side of things, but there are probably still challenges. So I'm leaving you with the difficult task to share with us some of the challenges that you see in your market, and that you've, from your perspective, coming from a bank, that need to be addressed, like, is it on the agent side? Is it on the distribution side? Is it on another aspect? So if you can give us in a few words, and then from there we'll move to the program introduction.
Okay, so the first and most grave challenge that we have in this market is mainly the infrastructure development.
Mm-hmm.
So you will notice that we only have Airtel and TNM, and they have towers across independently. And there are other areas of Malawi still that are not covered by the MNOs. So the reason why that is a challenge is because every other service that even banks offer, we ride on these services and how they reach out that they have and the last mile that they have offered. So that is the first and most important challenge that we have experienced. There have been some interventions and discussions that have been there to ensure that we improve the capacity in that area. And also, I would say the mobile phone penetration in the Malawian market has been a bit slow. So far, we are still at around, we are under still 15%. So you will notice that compared to the population that we have and the number of people that have got phones, it's quite challenging. So even during this time that there were humanitarian payments, the main challenge that was the lack of funds by most populations in Malawi. So that is the main challenge that we've had. And even for those that have got phones, we have the literacy challenge that is there. So you find that even the bank-led and MNO-led services on mobile services, they have to be translated to Chichewa to ensure that at least there's Chichewa and Tumbuka mainly, to see that everyone is able to transact. And even that, we have to have a challenge of going through the awareness journey and the experiential process of having these users so that once they are registered, they should be able to transact. The other challenge that is there is the gap that we have between the regulator as well as the private sector that is offering these services. You have banks and MNOs on one hand trying to push and introduce a lot of products and services, but there will be other challenges that will have to comply with other things, and that may delay go to market for other developments and innovations that have been done by both the MNOs as well as banks. And lastly, I should say that the challenge of us we have experienced in terms of the ATMs, like I said, we only have under 500, 493, and the POS machines across all merchant shops is just under 3,000. It's around 2,400. So you notice that the transactions that we're talking about is in billions and trillions, but we cannot enable a lot of that because we don't have a lot of merchants that have got the POS. And even on the e-commerce side, I should say that we have seen a growth, but the challenge that has been there is even Forex. So we're looking at this economic activity of tobacco to at least boost that availability so that there would be availability of Forex for both on the bank side as well as the MNOs to see that there should be a lot of transactions that will be there. In a nutshell, I should say that those are the main challenges that have been experienced in this market.
Thank you.
I
And
should stop there for now.
It's a really great seg to the next part of this program in this event, because you've mentioned really important constraint, from infrastructure to mobile penetration to policy and literacy, digital literacy of customers. So with that, I would like to thank you all three, Jane Mugenyi, Victoria Mbewe, and Philippe Bengura, for your time and for your really insightful discussion with plenty of concrete insights on what is going on in your different markets. I could see from the comments coming through that this is really interesting and inspiring for the people who are actually listening in. We also are seeing quite a few questions, so I hope you'll manage to stay with us as we go through now the program presentation, and some of the questions might be directed to you, so bear with us. And with my colleagues from the EU and UNCDF, I would like to give you an overview into what the program is about. And so for that, we have today with us Atta Cisse, our technical specialist at UNCDF, who's based in West Africa. We have Ephraim Garlando, Senior Policy Officer from DG IMPA at the Commission, and François Coupien, our Global Digital Lead. And so in the interest of time, I'll move quickly to the first section that will be introduced to you by Ephraim Garlando. Ephraim, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Karima. Good afternoon, good morning to all of you. Thank you very much again for this opportunity, and I will be very brief in the interest of time. First of all, let me thank once again the OACPs and the UNCDF for this very meaningful initiative. We personally, but also from the European Commission perspective, we really value this work. And by the way, thanks also to the great insight of the speakers right before me. I really, when we work on financial inclusion, I'm very always surprised to see how many insights and many new learnings you can really see, and especially in many of the partner countries to which we constantly work. We know that the COVID-19 pandemic have hit hard our economy and our society all over the world, and we probably see the end of the tunnel, of this crisis, but it's not over yet. And especially in order to recover from this crisis, we need to create a new society which should be more green and more sustainable. To do so, the European Commission has supported with more than 26 billion euro our partner countries to recover from the crisis, both from a health perspective and a socioeconomics perspective. And this has been possible through a meaningful partnership with our member states that really have helped us to create a great program and great support that really can find a good landing on the ground. Especially when it comes to financial inclusion and digital finance, we see the opportunities to partner together, not only with our member states, but also with private sector, NGOs, and financial institutions. And I really want to highlight one of our key initiatives, which is the Digital for Development Hub, which is a public-private partnership that wants to put a digital and his human-centric agenda at the core of our future operation when it comes to supporting our partner countries and the people who are suffering and needs to recover from the crisis. So we want to create a new agenda that brings especially multi-stakeholders opportunity and networks to thrive and to increase economic opportunities and resilience for the poor and the marginalized people, especially women and youth. I would stop here And I really want to then give the floor to my colleagues in UNCDF, which I have to thank once again for their great expertise and capacity to put together this program very fast and very effectively. And I'm very happy to hand over to Karima and then to Francois and Atta in this session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I will hand now the floor to Francois, who will walk us through the program itself, the leading objectives, and then he will hand the floor to Atta for more details on the activities we'll be running in the program. So over to you, Francois.
Yes, thank you, Karima. So first of all, let me, I think, thank also the EU and OACP for this great partnership. And also, I think I would like to thank, let's say, this great panel that have really been able to highlight some key important element of a digital transformation. I think, as mentioned by Jane, we see that really digital transformation is really surfacing in a lot of different sectors that are of crucial importance for marginalized segments, also like women and youth. And so I think, Jane, you mentioned education, health, finance, agriculture. And it's really reshaping all these sectors. And also what we see from all the discussion that we had this morning, it's also the speed of development. So we see that also, I think it has really bring a new dynamic in these different sectors with fast changing priorities and new business model. And so I think that's why, let's say, the approach that we are taking at UNCDF as a market development approach is so crucial to be able to keep, let's say, really to not be disconnected from the market dynamics. And so as an example, in the countries where we are, for example, one of the countries of this partnership is Ethiopia. And so we learned 5 days ago that Vodacom has been received, let's say, a telco license to be able to enter the market. I think it will totally change also the dynamic in, say, in the telco market and also mobile money market in the future in Ethiopia. And so you see also an example of another market, it's Malawi. I think about, let's say, in the last 3 years, they've developed this biometric ID system. I think they've registered about 9 million persons in less than a year. And so that's really also giving, let's say, now, I think this right infrastructure really to accelerate the access to a lot of digital solutions to different partners. So really to be able to keep track of this dynamic in the different countries where we operate, I think it's really important to continuously understand this market dynamics and the key constraint hindering the development of these sectors. And what do you mean by key constraints? For example, I think Victoria mentioned that for Malawi, for example, there is a lack of network coverage in rural areas. So how we can make sure we can work with some partners in the country to be able that we develop, let's say, specific business model that can maybe will help to be able to bring connection, I will not say to the last mile directly, but at least to the next mile, then to the next mile, to step by step really increase this network coverage. So really our objective as UNCDF, as is mentioned, so we work with the private sectors and the government in order to be able to unlock this key market constraint that will really allow to accelerate the development of digital solution and digital finance in a sustainable way. So our role is not just to do a project is live, it's really to help this market constraint, to have some impact from the project that we will do, but then that to make sure that the market will be growing, let's say, in a sustainable way. And so we'll be working with the central banks for sure, and with the different financial service providers. I think in a lot of exams that Jane, Philippe, and Victoria mentioned about regulation, about developing new product and service in different topics. And the point, I think, by doing such a market development approach, I think it will impact in a lot of the SDGs, but really, I think what will be important, it will impact, let's say, the key segments that we are targeting, all citizens of the country, but really making sure that we leave no one behind. So we leave no women, no youth, no MSMEs, no migrant, no refugee out of this digital transformation. So we can go to next slide. In the next slide, I think we will really, let's say, be focusing this market development approach in the context of this program. And I think it's a tremendous program. I think because of the scope of the program, but also because of the geography of this program. And so what we will do, I think, in the partnership with the EU and OACPs, is really to continue to implement the market development approach, so to contribute to the deployment of digital finance solution at scale and speed necessary to accelerate recovery after COVID-19 and make economies and societies more resilient to external shock. And so a lot of examples that have been discussed in the panel are really, let's say, showing what can be done in order to be able to achieve this goal. So it's a 4-year program of 15 million euro focused on digital finance. And our objective is to contribute directly to 600,000 new registered customers on digital finance. And that's the direct contribution. And as I say, I think indirectly, we would like to make sure that even at market level, I think there is much more impact than what we do. And so we will achieve this by focusing on 2 main objectives that are mentioned here in these slides. So one of the objectives is concerning this, really working with central banks and government agencies to have policy and regulation that really to develop a more enabling regulatory environment for digital finance. And the second part, it's really to support different, let's say, financial service providers to develop products and services that are more accessible, affordable, responsible, reliable, and appropriate, and that are really, let's say, targeting and let's say changing the life of the most marginalized segment. And Atta will come more in detail about the different actions that we will do there. So let's go maybe to the last slide concerning the geographical scope. And there, that's why I think it's the beauty of this program. I think it's global dimension that can create, let's say, impact at country, regional, and global level. So what we do, the market development approach that we're implementing, will be tailoring to the different countries where we'll be operating. And that's what we have been doing, let's say, since the beginning of the year. And we are focusing in different countries. So in West and Central Africa, I think the 2 countries where we'll be operating is Niger and Gabon. And we will also leverage that at regional level, supported by a regional office in Dakar. In East and Southern Africa, so the 2 countries that we have, let's say, select together with the EU and OACP are Malawi and Ethiopia. And again, we leverage also this learning at regional level with our office from Kampala. And in the Caribbean, so we will have, let's say, a team based in Trinidad and Tobago, but I think the objective there will be a regional focus on the Eastern Caribbean states. And then in the Pacific, again, it's a regional approach with specific focus on 5 countries: Vanuatu, Samoa, Timor-Leste, Tonga, and Fiji. So I was talking about the beauty of this global dimension, is that in each country, when we will, let's say, be doing, let's say, all the different activities of the action, we'll be able to capture a lot of different learning that will make sure our exchange, let's say, at country level, at regional level, at global level. But what will be really important also is this best practice will be able to be shared, let's say, globally. And so just the panel that we had, when you are able to listen to example from Malawi, from Victoria, from Jane from Uganda, or from Philippe from Sierra Leone, I think it just showed the power of this exchange and learning from each other. And so that's really also one of the key objectives from, let's say, experience from the Caribbean, from the Pacific, from Africa. We'll be able to share that at global level, just to make sure that not only the partners or the countries where we are working will benefit from it, but really, I think the whole, let's say, global community that is implementing digital finance, to make sure that we are creating much more impact and will bring more and more people in the formal financial service in the coming 4 years. Mm-hmm. So I will stop here and I will hand over to Atta that will bring you, let's say, in some more detailed information about the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Francois, and also thank you to the panelists who really provided some concrete examples that we're looking to learn from and leverage for this program. As Francois said, we have 2 primary objectives. So I'm just going to go over each of those in a bit more detail. So we'll start with objective 1, which is enabling policy and regulation. One of the first activities will be to act as a convener where UNCDF will focus its efforts on creating systematic high-level discussions and look for collaborations on DFS policy matters. Our goal here will be to support governments in identifying key market constraints that really hinder the development of digital economies and help to set the right priorities by working closely with both public and private sector actors. We plan on leveraging our inclusive digital economy scorecard, which will be used as a dialogue tool to develop evidence-based discussions with stakeholders. The final output here will be to have clear priorities for inclusive digital financial services, establishing monitoring systems, and helping to solidify data-driven dialogue to help inform policy development. The second activity focuses more on implementing responsive regulatory frameworks. This is linked to the first activity, where we'll work closely with governments to translate those policy commitments that were developed in the first activity into concrete data-driven reforms. So this includes providing technical assistance to regulators to help create a legal environment to help establish an inclusive digital economy. So this includes changes in agent regulation, for example, customer due diligence, consumer protection, and just to name a few. And lastly, under this first objective, we want to ensure we're capturing lessons learned and best practices in regulation. And this goes back to what Francois had just mentioned, which is the beauty of this program. So we plan on organizing workshops, virtual and in-person conferences when possible, and peer-to-peer exchanges coupled with training, so that here we're building capacity through peer learning, initiate cross-country dialogue, and ensure regional harmonization is aligned to global best practices, and particular focusing on enabling policy for women, youth, and MSMEs. Next slide. The second objective, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. The second objective, our focus will be on the deployment of digital finance innovations. So first, we'll look at supporting providers to design services, invest in infrastructure, and expand networks that accept digital money as a means of payment. We're going to start by assessing the DFS agent and merchant market to get a sense of where gaps exist, and then look to support agent and merchant networks to either pilot or scale up new business models to ensure they're able to reach last mile clients. While efforts are going to be made to reach these clients, we also need to make sure that clients can actually use the services that are being put together for them. So this will be done through the provision of training for target segments on key behavior changes so that they can prevent COVID, learn how to increase their savings, understand how to apply, use, and manage a loan, for example, successfully manage their finances, and also training on how to plan financially for their future, especially when it comes to youth. Our efforts under this objective will also look to deploy innovative digital financial services beyond digital payments. So this includes the development of tailored financial services for the target segments, such as women and youth and MSMEs, to increase their access and usage of particular services. For example, looking at how we can leverage psychometric testing, especially for young entrepreneurs that don't have the necessary collateral from traditional financial service providers. We'll look at promoting skills and also building capacity in order to develop national expertise capable of offering those innovative services. The various actors, the future promoters, and even potential users, they need to have an understanding of what fintechs are, what are the benefits, and such, to be better positioned to support digital innovation. And lastly here, again, it links back to the beauty of the program, which is, to ensure that there's a concerted effort to document and share best practices, ensure that there's lateral learnings, and capacity building at the country level through workshops, research, and dissemination of those learnings. And next slide. Excuse me. And the program, in terms of gender mainstreaming, the program indeed has gender mainstreaming elements embedded into both the programmatic and operational level. At the programmatic level, there will be sex and age disaggregated data to report on elements such as improved economic opportunities and resilience as a result of either new or improved digital services. The program will also ensure the designing of appropriate innovative products for both men and women. And we're also planning on leveraging the Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard to help governments track the development of their digital transformation and inclusiveness when it comes to gender and age. At the operational level, UNCDF will ensure that all events, workshops, and webinars we focus on a gender balanced participation, not just with the participants, but also with panel members. And you will also see shortly the gender balance team engaged in this program. I think this is a good segue into the next slide, which introduces the team. We have a video we'd like to share, which does this. Just for information, we have, the video only shows just a small number of the team members, but we have a total of 27 people involved in this program once all the recruitment is finalized. So let me pass the floor over to Karima, who's going to share the video now.
My name is Mike Mccaffrey. I'm based in Kampala, Uganda, and I'm the East and Southern Africa Regional Manager for the Inclusive Digital Economies Program. Been working with agent banking and mobile money for about the past 10 years, and I really think they're important to help extend crucial services like health and education out into rural communities that need them.
My name is Casiti. I'm the Digital Finance Coordinator for Malawi with over 9 years experience in digital financial services. It is important that we address the basic enablers for DFS, such as a conducive regulatory framework, enabling digital infrastructure, and inclusive innovation.
Hi, my name is Tespai. I am a digital financial services expert. Based in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for the Inclusive Digital Economy Program. I believe that there is a lot to be done for financial services using digital solutions.
Hi, I'm Ahmed Dermish. I lead our policy and regulatory work at UNCDF. I've been doing this for 15 years now. And in this project, I'll be helping support our Eastern Caribbean community and Trinidad and Tobago. We look forward to bringing the benefits of digital financial services to the region, particularly its ability to build resilience against climate-related shocks, improve access to markets through e-commerce, improve regional trade, and really make the most out of the already developed and well thought out regional strategy for digital transformation.
Hi, my name is Atta Sise, and I'm the Youth Finance Regional Specialist based in Dakar, Senegal. For the last 7+ years, I've been working on financial inclusion for youth, and an integral part of that is ensuring that youth have access to relevant, affordable, and targeted financial services, especially through digital means.
Hello, my name is Mel Dengoke. I am currently based in Lugola, Fatonga. I am the UNCDF country coordinator, which is in the Pacific region. I've had work experience in the central bank in the financial inclusion space. We believe DFS could help reduce the cost of financing, especially in transacting. I'm currently wearing the kiki, which is traditional wear, to depict that Tonga is deeply rooted in their culture. So any policies designed should be, the culture should be considered.
My name is Ayham Ismail. I am the country coordinator for Vanuatu. I joined the team with financial inclusion and digital finance experience. Digital finance is very important for the outreach of public and private sector services, especially in rural areas.
My name is Shaftijan Gay, digital finance expert at UNCDF Niger. I have over 5 years of relevant experience in digital finance. I think the digital finance is one of the ways to help youth, refugees, women, and rural population to unlock their potential.
Wonderful video. Thank you so much for that, Karima. And thank you also to the team that participated and sent in their videos. It looks fantastic. So just going back, thank you. So just to go over planning and next steps. So where are we now? We've launched the program. And we are currently wrapping up the inception phase, which will be completed by the end of June. So this includes recruiting staff, setting up offices, connecting with EU country teams and other UN sister agencies, and also completing a DFS assessment in several countries such as Gabon, Ethiopia, Niger, and Malawi. And we plan to also have local launches to share the findings from the DFS assessments. Next quarter, we will start the implementation phase, where we will start working with government counterparts in developing DFS working groups and look at data automation. We will also work with the private sector by launching requests for applications to start developing or scaling up agent networks, developing financial services and other innovative services. And as mentioned earlier, each of these elements will be tracked and shared through a knowledge management system. So let me pass the floor back to Karima so that we can start the Q&A. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Atta. I see that we are now a bit running over time, so I would like to propose that we address some of the Q&As by email, but I also see some of the questions around, what will we do to bring together the public sector and the private sector. I think this kind of has been answered through the question. There are a couple of questions that are very precise on how UNCDF works on like credit scoring. Maybe we'll push that maybe to a separate conversation about how we go about that. I also see in the Q&A and in the chat some interesting offers about working with some partners to develop the interoperability in the market. So I'm sure our colleagues at UNCDF will reach out, and considering this is happening in Sierra Leone, we probably have learnings on that, so we can have some further discussion on that. And also questions about how are we going to be addressing the gender issues and the fact that women, have a difficult access to digital financial services in some market, but probably, as you have seen, that will be the center, will be part of the center of the program and all the activities. So hopefully in the different convenings we'll have with the ecosystem, we'll work to find together solutions to ensure that women are really part of the target audiences for these services, and they can actually access and start using the services in those different markets. So there are also more precise questions on eKYC and the impact on rural areas, but I would like to in the interest of time, unfortunately, like I said, we're not going to be able to address all these questions here, and so we'll try and address those further, as they are very precise and by email, and you can always come back to me also, and I can direct you to the right person if you need. You all have my email after registering for this session. And so with no further ado, I would like to give the floor to Cécile Billot, Head of Unit at DG INPA, who will give us some closing remarks. So Cécile Billot.
Thanks. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Karima. Thanks, Karima, for giving me the floor, and thanks for this opportunity to come also at the end of the meeting, but couldn't have attended all of it, but I've heard already quite a number of very inspiring things out of today's meeting. I'm really happy to be there, and many thanks for UNCDF to have organized it, and also together with the OACPs and Mr. Chikoti, Secretary General. So basically, it's true what we can see today is that the pandemic has changed a lot of things in our lives, but one thing that has been really boosted by a sort of side effect of the crisis, a terrible crisis, is the use of technology. As we see ourselves in our day-to-day work, technology is just a central part of our work, of our day. And sometimes it's too much, at least for me, but it's a fact that our society has really changed, and technology has really grown in a path we would never have thought it was possible a couple of months ago. So this is true, as you say today, same for digital financial services. And then you see consumer business wants to have new online service. The see new providers wanted to make new exciting, innovative tech services. And this is all very good. But what is very important is that all these new ideas and these new trends also are accompanied by inclusive and transformative policy reforms. So to make sure this is done in a sustainable way and it just benefits all the different people. So that's, I think, the spirit of this project today is very much into this bigger ambition, and is very much welcome for that. We heard today a couple of inspiring experiences, and I always very much like to have this concrete experience from the ground. So just recalling some of them, which really struck me, that indeed the use of mobile money increased in all countries with the crisis, and it helped to increase financial inclusion, which is a positive news. And we've heard about Malawi and mobile transaction helping women to use financial service. So this is very positive and encouraging. We also heard positive experience from MTM in Uganda, and especially the trust that could be created between mobile money and financial market during crisis, with an increase in transaction related to that. We also heard a positive example from Malawi, from the Sierra Leone Central Bank, and showing that they really put a great value into increasing attention in regulating and supervising financial institutions for the benefits of consumer and consumer confidence. So many interesting things from the field, which is very inspiring for us here on where we stand. So this last thing I want to also highlight in relation to the launch of this partnership and this program is that it is really it represents really what the EU thinks we should be doing also in this thing, because it's really when you work together with joint partnership and investments that we will manage to bridge the digital divide and grow our digital economies in a way that is sustainable and also benefiting the different people. So this partnership approach is very much welcome and something we support in all our program in the digital field. So we're counting on this partnership and to be done also in this action and in many other action in a sort of Team Europe spirit that's very much at the center, at the core of our thinking in terms of the shaping of development policy, and also what has come from the crisis, as a fact that we need to work together as a team to have the same objective and to have more impact. So this is really what is also about our priority and about this program, is really that we all contribute with expertise in a collective effort with the same objective in mind, and to ensure that it works better for the financial inclusion and digital finance for everybody. So thanks a lot, and I'm really happy that we will work together in putting shape into this program into the coming month and years to come.
Thank you very much, Cecile. And I see Escipion Oliveira from the OACPs. So thank you for your time, for your presence here. Also, this is a joint initiative between the European Commission and the OACPs and UNCDF, and we're really glad to have you all here today. I hope you were inspired by this presentation. This is the kickoff for us officially of the program. As you may have heard, it already kind of started in the background. Most of the countries in focus have already probably had some informal meetings, but official launch will also happen in Ethiopia, in Malawi, in Gabon, in Niger, etc. as we go forward, also in the Caribbean. So stay tuned and stay connected with us, and you will hear more from this program and knowledge sharing activities that we will have in the future. Thank you. With that, I will end the event for all. Thank you very much, and have a nice rest of the day.